break. Hughes into the Minnesota zone, goes around one man, he scores!
He gets in the back, doubles all alone, he deeps, he shoots, he scores!
Dion looking for his 500th goal, he shoots, and he scores! There it is, his 500th. Jimmy Carson looking for his 50th, and he shoots, he scores! Sandstrom in front, shoots, he scores! In front, shoots, scores!
There have been a lot of faces and a lot of memories for Kings fans. You know, it's hard to believe, but 1991-92 marks the Kings' 25th year of existence. I'm sure fans find it difficult to remember a time without hockey in Los Angeles, but it wasn't always here. The National Hockey League began in 1917, and for most of the next 50 years, it was a small regional sport located in the East and Midwest. In 1966, the league announced its intention to double in size by adding 6 new teams, including 2 in California, Oakland, and Los Angeles. The Los Angeles franchise was awarded to Jack Kent Cooke, who immediately set out to build his team. The first of many surprises came when Cooke announced that instead of playing at the Los Angeles Sports Arena, his Kings would play at a beautiful new arena to be called the Forum. 25 years ago, there was no Forum on this spot. It was just a big, empty lot.
I can remember driving around Los Angeles with Eddie Parr. You remember Eddie was the chauffeur, and Jack, and we were looking for sites to build the Forum at that time, and naturally we were looking for choice freeways and arteries off the freeways. And I can remember when we chose Hollywood Park. When I say we, anybody who knows Jack Kent Cooke knows that Jack Kent Cooke chose Hollywood Park.
So while the Forum was being built in Inglewood, the Kings franchise was being built in Montreal, where the NHL held its expansion draft in June 1967.
After the draft was over, I remember Mr. Cooke asked me in his suite, he said, I'd like you to rate all the teams now after they've been drafted. And after about 4 hours working on it, I said that we would end up either first or second with Philadelphia, and I had picked Oakland last. And he kept that paper, and I think there was only one team out of place at the end of the year.
It wasn't easy to introduce a new sport with all new players to Los Angeles. So Jack Kent Cooke thought he'd add some flair to their arrival by giving exciting nicknames to the unknown players.
For the Kings, it'll be the Jet line. Eddie Jet Joyelle at center ice, Frenchie Lemieux on the left wing, Cowboy Flat on the right side, Dale Rolfe and Larry Cahan on the bench.
Cowboy Flat, Eddie the Jet Joyelle, Minnie Menard, and we had, I believe, 3 Bryans. Mr. Cooke said, no, we can't have that. Everybody had to have a nickname. In fact, when the team arrived in Los Angeles for the very first time, the very first day, they had played in St. Louis in a preseason game the night before, we had a beret for Riel Frenchie Lemieux. We had an Indian headdress for Chief Campbell. We had a cowboy outfit and a 10-gallon hat on Cowboy Flat, and for the life of us, we couldn't figure what we were going to put on Eddie the Jet Joyelle. But everybody arrived in costume, so to speak, when the team first got here to the airport.
For most of us, myself included, it was the first time in the city, and I was really impressed, to say the least. I remember the first day we rented a car. There was Bill Flett and Eddie Joyelle and Brian Campbell and a couple of other guys, and we drove all over the place, down to the beaches, and later in the evening we went up to Hollywood and had a couple of beers at a few clubs. I was thinking, where has this place been all my life? It was so new and so exciting, and the weather was fantastic.
When the team first arrived in town, their new home wasn't finished, so the Kings started their first home season playing games in both the LA Sports Arena and the Long Beach Arena, while the Forum was being built.
Funniest thing, probably the first time I ever met Jack Kent Cooke. They were building the Forum. Gord Labossiere and I were standing beside him. We had the nice white hard hats on and everything. And he asked Gord and I, what do you think of this building? And we said, it's not bad. He kind of blew up. He said, what do you mean not bad? He said, this is my fabulous Forum. To me, all it was just a construction site. So I think from that day on, he didn't like Gord or myself too much.
Who were the players who made up the first-year Kings? The goaltending chores were split between 38-year-old veteran Terry Sawchuk and 25-year-old Wayne Rutledge, who at first couldn't get used to facing many of the superstars he'd grown up hearing about.
It was really, really incredible. Like, you know, as a kid growing up, you watched television and you seen Gordie Howe play and John Belleville, and then all of a sudden here you are, you're on the same ice surface with these guys. And it was really a thrill.
He was falling down the start of the year and he wasn't covering his angles. He's a big fella, you know, he can cover a lot of ground, but he's playing so well now, and everybody thinks that I've helped him that much, but he's done it himself. Nobody's done it for him, and he's just playing real wonderful.
Up front, there were two young forwards who would play on the same line for nearly 5 years, Eddie Joyal and Bill Flett, the Kings' first stars.
Now over to Bailey, in across the Los Angeles line. Bailey has his pass blocked by Cowboy Flett. To center to Joyal, one man back. He's in across the Boston line, shoots off the stick of Cheevers, the stick handedly. Joyal centers to Flett, he scores! The Cowboy fires home Joyal's pass, and the Kings...
10 years before Wayne Gretzky ever heard of Jari Kurri, and a decade before Marcel Dion met Dave Taylor, Joyal and Flett were line mates with the Kings.
Ed, you scored an awful lot of goals, 97 of them in the National Hockey League, playing with the Kings. Where's your favorite spot to shoot from?
Well, when I'm playing center or when I'm playing wing?
Either way.
Well, right in front of the net is, to me, is about the easiest, because I can tend to get the shot away a lot quicker than most of the hockey players, I think, anyway. Maybe it's not going as fast, but it seems to be a little deceptive for the goaltender.
Well, you know, the whole time that we played in Los Angeles, we didn't play very many shifts that we didn't play together, and Eddie was a great center iceman, and he sure helped me a lot through my career, and he was, we got along on and off the ice, and I can't say enough about him. He was one of the keys for the Kings to be successful. A lot of the times is how he played is how we went.
The stars on defense were big Dale Rolfe and steady Bill White. The captain of the first-year Kings was defenseman Bob Wall. But the real leader of the Kings was Red Kelly. Kelly had played for 20 years in the NHL before retiring to become the Kings' rookie coach.
This was a new franchise, and we were going to start building from the ground up, and it was going to be exciting, and I look forward to that. It was a really exciting time for me, and I thought we were going to build something that would go, you know, last and go on.
I have two recollections of Red Kelly, our coach, that year. The first one is he never swore. And when the referee would skate by the boards, he'd yell, "You son of a sea cook and bottle washer." And by the time he got it out, the referee, of course, was all the way down the other end of the ice. The other was in practice. We always seemed to be a forward short to make up 4 complete lines because of an injury or whatever. So Red would play right wing on the line that needed a forward, which meant quite often he was playing against me. And I used to dread that because the guy was so good. We used to call him the Blue Phantom. He used to wear a blue jacket in practice, and as soon as the puck was dropped, you couldn't find him. The next thing you know, it was in your net, and then Red would come back at the faceoff and say, "Where were you? You're supposed to be checking me." Actually, Red Kelly that year could have been our best hockey player had he been playing instead of coaching. And he was 40 years old, but come to think of it, 40 wasn't all that old.
else were a whole bunch of minor leaguers that respected each other from the years that we played against each other. So we came together very quickly, and Red Kelly was a great molder and motivator, and I think an awful lot of the credit of the early success has to go to Red, who was patient, and Jack Ken Cook, who just loved hockey and let Red do what he had to do.
The Kings had a great first season. They finished in second place in the new West Division, just 1 point behind the first place Flyers. It was the closest they were to come to first place for many years. It was not until 23 years later, in 1991, that coach Tom Webster led the Kings to their first division championship. But in the years between, there were enough exciting moments and heartaches to test the allegiance of any fan. During this 25th anniversary special, we'll look back at the Kings' exciting history. The thrilling games. The famous moments. And the unforgettable characters. Let's sit back and enjoy the Kings' 25th anniversary video yearbook. So in 1967, it began for the Kings in Los Angeles. The first-year team started off with a big fanfare and attracted a small group of loyal fans. But over their next couple of seasons, the team slumped on the ice and attendance was suffering at the Forum.
But what we did then at the end of the second year, we said, well, we've got to bring in some names, name people, because everybody has always said that Los Angeles is a star town. And I'm sure it's proven itself to be that way. But anyway, we made changes, but we got Eddie Shack and Dickie Duff and Terry Harper and different players, but it wasn't done with the idea that we really believed that we were going the right path, but we thought we had an immediate chore that we had to get the fan interest in the team. So it was a monetary decision more than an artistic one, I think.
Try as they might, the Kings couldn't buy any superstars. But in their fifth season, 1971-72, the Kings had in place the players who would lead them for the next decade and beyond. It started with Butch Goring, the first fans' favorite, always hustling on the ice, usually good for 1 or 2 breakaways a game, and deadly one-on-one with opposing goalies.
Zone, cleared away there by Lapointe, but taken by Goring. Down the left side, Goring in front. He shoots, he scores!
In February 1972, he was tripped on a breakaway in New York against the Rangers and became the first player in Kings history to score a penalty shot goal. Goring was the first King to average a point a game and the first to play 10 years with the Kings.
It's the only way I knew how to play hockey was to go all out and just chase the puck. As I got a little smarter, I didn't chase as often. I get myself in a little bit better position. But the game, to me, could only be played one way, and that was to play hard and aggressive. I had my own style. I didn't try to be anybody. I wasn't a Guy Lafleur or a Bobby Hull. I knew what I was, and that's just the way I attacked it.
In October 1971, just before the season began, the Kings purchased young left-winger Bob Berry, another player whose character helped build the Kings once he was given a chance to make the team.
I went through the whole of training camp not really knowing whether I had a job or not, and we opened the season on a Friday night in Vancouver, the first game ever in Vancouver. And I can remember calling my mom and dad in Montreal because the game was going to be broadcast across Canada, and said, well, I'm still with the team. They have 25 players. I don't even know if I'm going to play tomorrow night. And it was a situation. We ended up winning the hockey game 3-1, and I ended up getting 2 goals, and things sort of fell in place. But I remember going to Vancouver that night not really knowing who was going to play and who was not going to play.
Just a month after Berry joined the team, the Kings made their biggest trade ever. They got goalie Rogie Vachon from the Montreal Canadiens. Rogie was the first superstar on the team and one of the 2 or 3 best goaltenders in the league during his 7 years in L.A.
Rogie is he's an ace, let's put it that way. He is an all-star goaltender, and I think you're going to see him in the LA Nets for quite a few years.
But perhaps the biggest reason for the Kings' success in the 70s was Bob Pulford, who was traded to the team in 1970. After playing 2 seasons, Pulford retired and moved behind the bench to become the Kings' new coach. He stressed defense, and the team showed immediate improvement.
Are really starting to believe in themselves. They're starting to get confidence. We're starting to win a competitive hockey team. We can play anyone in the league on any given night, and if we play our game, we can beat anyone in the league.
Well, we didn't have Gretzky playing for us in those days, and we felt that if we were going to win and really be a good team, we had to stop the other team. And then basically that's the philosophy I was brought up under in the Toronto days, and our idea was to stop the other team from scoring, and if we could stop them, we would get the puck and have chances to score. But the main thing was to play strong defensively.
Pulford and general manager Jake Milford assembled a great supporting cast for the Kings stars. Players like Harry Howell, Terry Harper, Ralph Backstrom, Finnish-born Juha Viding, whom Jack Kent Cooke insisted we call Whitey Whiting, Dan Maloney, backup goalie Gary Edwards, and others. Under Pulford's direction, the team quickly improved. In their third season under his coaching, their 8th in the NHL, it all came together. The 1974-75 edition of the Kings got off to one of the best starts by any team in league history, with just one loss in their first 17 games. Many players had the best years of their entire careers, including Rogie Vachon, who was given extra incentive by a clever coach.
I remember the first game we played that year in Philadelphia, and I didn't dress Rogie. He was the #1 goaltender. We had addressed Gary Edwards, and I was the next game I dressed Edwards again. We'd won the first game, and I dressed Edwards again. And by the third game, Rogie was so mad. He went on and had a great season, and probably should have won the Vezina Trophy that year. But we did have Rogie was outstanding in goal for us, and it was just the character of the team that was unbelievable.
Maybe the best testimony to the character of the 1974-75 Kings is the fact that 9 of the players on that squad later went on to become assistant or head coaches in the NHL.
Pulley just set everybody aside and said, this is what I want you to do, this is how I want you to play, these are the things you do for the hockey club. Everybody does their job and works as a team, we're going to be effective.
We had a number of guys who were willing to accept the coaching philosophies of Pulford and say, hey, listen, there's a lot of different ways to play this game. Let's play it Pulford's way and see what happens. And there was enough discipline in that room and amongst the guys that we did it his way, and we got results, and we said, hey, let's not question results.
2 years ago in Montreal, we had an excellent goaltender in Dryden, and plus the defense played well, forwards were checking well, and I think it parallels this team. We have Rogie and Edwards in net, and they're playing exceptionally well. Our defense seems to be holding together, and our forwards are checking well.
We did not have that much talent, but we played a very defensive system, and it used to frustrate every other team, especially the fast-paced team like Montreal Canadiens in those days. They used to call them the Flying Frenchmen. And we used to put 4 guys at the center ice, and they had to shoot the puck in. It was a very boring style, but we were very successful.
The 1974-75 Kings challenged their then-division rivals Montreal for first place for 4 months, before finally finishing second in the Norris Division, 4th overall in the NHL. But unfortunately, the 75 playoffs became one of the first big heartaches for the Kings, who were upset in the first round by the Toronto Maple Leafs. The summer of 1975 marked the beginning of the next era for the Kings. After trying to grab media attention for several years, owner Jack Kent Cooke finally went out and got the player he believed would turn the franchise around. A player who scored more points in his first 4 NHL seasons than anyone in league history, Marcel Dionne. Dionne became the offensive power the Kings hoped for. He was the first Kings player to score 50 goals and 100 points in a season.
Dionne in the slot, Dionne to the right wing, Dionne shoots, he scores! Here's McClellan in front, over to Dionne, he scores! Puck is loose, Taylor in front, Dionne scores! He wins it with a hat trick!
With Dionne and Vachon leading the Kings, the team had some of their most exciting playoff seasons. In both 1976 and 1977, the Kings beat the then Atlanta Flames in the first round and faced the Boston Bruins in the second round. The Flames series were memorable for their closeness. The Kings scored just 6 goals more than the Flames in the 5 playoff games they played over 2 years. In the 77 series, the Flames thought they could win by intimidating Marcel Dionne. But defenseman Dave Hutchison stepped in to defend Dionne and wound up squaring off against Flames rookie heavyweight Willie Plett. Hutchison beat Plett soundly. Dionne was left alone after that and went on to score some key goals for the Kings. The Kings-Bruins series of 1976 and 1977 are still talked about in Boston, and they'll always be remembered in Los Angeles for the strong goaltending of Rogie Vachon. the action at both ends of the rink, the enthusiasm of the crowds at the Forum, and some of the most memorable action in Kings history. Game 6 of the '76 series has always been considered one of the Kings' most thrilling games. Trailing 3-2 in the series, the Kings faced elimination. But when they returned to Los Angeles for Game 6, they were greeted by the loudest cheers ever heard at the Forum. A 5-minute standing ovation before the game. And the fans kept the noise level up all night. The Kings trailed 3-1 in the final period, but came back with 2 goals by Mike Corrigan. The tying goal came when Corrigan was flat on his back, but managed to get off a shot that deflected off the stick of Bruins goalie Jerry Cheevers and somehow went into the net. The teams battled for nearly an entire 20 minutes of overtime before the game came to a sudden and dramatic end.
He shoots, scores! The game! Buck scoring with a shot from the slot ends the game! The Kings win it! 4-3! We're getting back to Boston! We're getting to Boston for the 7th game of the series! Scoring ends it in overtime! From the slot, he drove across.
There were many memorable players on the Kings during the mid-1970s. There was Don Kozak, Crazy Cozy, who set an NHL record for the fastest goal from the start of a playoff game when he scored just 6 seconds into a game against the Bruins in 1977. There was Gene Carr, one of the fastest and most flamboyant players in the NHL. And there was Dave Schultz, who had calmed down a little, but not much, from his days with the Philadelphia Flyers. Tommy Williams was one of the big shooters on the team. He once held the team record for left wings with 35 goals in a season. And on defense, there was Gary Sargent, a full-blooded Chippewa Indian. In October 1977, the Kings tried a new young player, right wing Dave Taylor. Taylor had been chosen in the 12th round of the 1975 draft and was taken so low, 210th overall, that in his rookie year, he had a tough time getting a chance to play.
Halfway through my first season in Los Angeles, I had been playing on the 4th line, mostly with Vic Vinaski at center. Mm-hmm. And what happened that year was we made a trade with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and we added Heartland Monahan to the lineup. So when Heartland came in as a right winger, I kind of went from the 4th line into the stands, and I wasn't playing very much. And you know, just a rookie, I had a lot of fears at that time. I thought I was going to end up going to the minors, but the way it happens in the pro sports, and it's not really right, but Heartland Monahan ended up with an injury, hurt his leg or something, I believe, and I got the opportunity to play, and this was about halfway through the season, and we weren't doing real well as a team, so they were shaking the lines up a little bit, and I got the opportunity to play with Marcel Dionne, and Tommy Williams was on the left wing with us. First game we played was against the Penguins in Pittsburgh, and I still remember the game. It was a 2-2 tie, I believe, and Marcel had both goals. And from then on, I realized that I was in the league to stay, and ended up with Marcel for the better part of 9 seasons.
Taylor became a star when teamed with Dionne. In fact, Dionne insisted on sharing the team's Most Valuable Player award with Taylor after his first season in the NHL. Taylor went on to star for the Kings for the next 14 years, becoming the highest-scoring collegiate player in NHL history, and just the second player ever to collect 1,000 career points as a King.
And now shot score, Duchesne! As Taylor got tripped, he got it to Duchesne. Duchesne scored, and Dave Taylor gets his 1,000th point in his NHL career.
In June 1991, Taylor capped his career by receiving both the NHL Masterton and the King Clancy Awards for his perseverance, sportsmanship, and dedication to hockey, both on and off the ice.
Hockey writers.
Midway through Taylor's second year with the team, Bob Berry, who is now the Kings coach, called up a 25-year-old minor leaguer named Charlie Simmer. Simmer was added to the line with Dion and Taylor, and the Triple Crown line was born.
Well, I'd got called up, and I was sort of anticipating to be sitting on the bench for the whole evening again and waiting until the injuries got back, but it was in Detroit against the Red Wings in the old Olympia, so it was pretty exciting for me because of the old building and a lot of heritage that was there. But I think a young guy named Marcel Dion had a great night that night. He scored 4 goals, and Davey Taylor, who was playing his right side, got 1, and I think I weaseled in 1 assist for the whole evening, but we ended up winning big, and from then on we just seemed to get better after that.
2-on-2. Here's Simmer over to Dion. Vancouver zone, right wing. He shoots. He scores! Simmer down the left side. Simmer over to Taylor in front alone. He shoots. He scores! Here's Dion to center. Dion ahead to Simmer. A breakaway in front alone. He shoots. He scores! 2-on-1. Simmer and Taylor. Simmer down the left side. Simmer to Taylor. He shoots. He scores!
In their first full year together, the Triple Crown line accounted for 146 goals and helped Marcel Dion win his first and only Art Ross Trophy as the NHL's highest scorer. It was an exciting finish for Dion, who was challenged in the scoring race by Edmonton's Wayne Gretzky, playing in his first NHL season. The battle went all the way down to the wire, with Dion and Gretzky eyeing each other all the way.
Now here I was 18 years old, and I had pressure from people in Edmonton and hockey people in general to try to live up to a guy like Marcel Dion. And I remember first few games that I played against him, I was actually quite scared and nervous. And Marcel would talk to me on the ice and wish me good luck and those kind of things. So it made it easier for me.
Dion had 2 assists in the final game of the 79-80 season. He and Gretzky finished in a tie for points, but the award was given to Dion, who had more goals.
That was important for me to win it that year because I knew I was only going to have 1 shot when he did it. I'm still looking back that I know I picked up 2 assists in that first period against Vancouver. I wish I would have got 1 more because I think the award should have been for both of us, but I guess I was, because I had more goals, I ended up to win a scoring race. But again, it was a great year, not only for me, but for Dave Taylor and Charlie Simmer that really did contribute to that. And I knew Wayne was going to come along and take it over.
Gretzky may have lost the scoring race his rookie year, but he would go on to have quite an impact on both the NHL and the Kings. Meanwhile, the Kings made more changes. In 1979, Jack Kent Cooke sold the Kings, the Lakers, and the Forum itself to Dr. Jerry Buss, a former USC professor and longtime local sports fan. Unlike Cooke, who kept a professional distance from his employees, the players, Dr. Buss enjoyed hanging out with them. His philosophy fit the Southern California lifestyle.
I had been told when I entered the league that most owners have the attitude that you cannot be friends with your players, that you shouldn't get close to them. I disagree with that totally. Only by being very close to them will I understand their problems, their personalities, and I think that will help me in building a better team, which is the one thing that both the players and I have in common. We do want to win.
One of Buss's biggest accomplishments came in 1981, when he persuaded the NHL to hold their annual All-Star Game in Los Angeles. It was a highlight for Kings fans and a special thrill for the Triple Crown line, who skated out together during the player introductions.
The fact that we were selected on the All-Star game at home here was another piece of the cake there. I mean, that was it. The 3 of us skate on the ice. I still have the tape at home, and I have goosebumps just thinking about it.
The Kings had another starter in the 1981 All-Star Game, goalie Mario Lessard. Lessard played 5 years with the team and was spectacular at times. He led the NHL with 35 wins in 1980-81. The Kings had other exciting players in 1981. There was Larry Murphy, whose 76 points set an NHL record for most points by a rookie defenseman. And there was Jim Fox, who went on to become the 2nd highest scoring right wing in team history. Coach Bob Berry led the 80-81 Kings to 43 wins and 99 points during the regular season. But once again, their second-best record ever was washed out by a first-round playoff upset, this time by the New York Rangers. The early 80s were difficult seasons, not only for Kings players, but also for the loyal fans who followed the team. They are memorable only because of a few improbable games and some exciting young players. Bernie Nicholls started off with a bang, scoring 3 hat tricks in a week early in his career. Bernie was a natural goal scorer and one of the more flamboyant players in Kings history. For a few years, he celebrated his goals with a move dubbed the Pumpernickel. He later became the first King ever to score 70 goals in one season. The 1981-82 season was especially disappointing. After finishing 4th overall the year before, the Kings slumped to 17th place in the 21-team NHL. In fact, they only made the playoffs because they were in the same division as the worst team in the league that year, the Colorado Rockies. Meanwhile, the Edmonton Oilers were the surprise of the league in just their 3rd NHL season. They won their first of 6 straight Smythe Division championships and finished with the 3rd best record in the league. Now, the reason I'm giving you all these stats is to try and give you some idea of the enormity of the difference between the Kings and the Oilers that year when they met in the first round of the playoffs. Remember Wayne Gretzky, the kid who lost the scoring race to Dion in 1979? Well, he was now on his way to 7 straight scoring championships. In 1981-82, he shattered the NHL record book with 92 goals and 212 points, records that seemed unreachable just 2 years earlier. He was surrounded by some of the best young players in the world: Messier, Coffey, Lowe, Anderson, Fuhr, and others who would become the mainstays of the Oilers dynasty. In April 1982, the brash young Oilers met the Kings in one of the most memorable playoff series in NHL history. The first night alone set NHL records for most goals in one game, and the Kings came out on top, winning 10-8. Darrell Evans came out of nowhere with that big shot to score a couple of goals, and Bernie Nicholls celebrated an empty net goal to clinch the game with his longest ever pumpernickel. The Oilers won the second game in the best-of-5 series before the teams flew to Los Angeles for the game that will always be remembered as the Miracle on Manchester. That night, the Oilers jumped out to a 5-0 lead after 2 periods of play. But Kings coach Don Perry refused to let the team quit. He urged them on, while some of the veterans thought about their pride.
Well, all I can remember before we started the comeback was the Oilers laughing at us, and that was... Now, I just remember that personally. I'm getting goosebumps now thinking about it, but I'm sure all the other players, if you ask them individually who are on that team, they remember that too. And I think pride took over that night.
In the 3rd period, the Kings started their comeback. Jay Wells scored to make it 5-1. A few minutes later, rookie Doug Smith scored to make it 5-2. Then Charlie Simmer scored to give the Kings hope. After Simmer's goal, it seemed like the Kings had the momentum. Late in the game, Gary Unger, a former King, high-sticked Dave Lewis and was given a major penalty. Now the Kings had a power play, and with 4:01 left, Mark Hardy scored and the Kings trailed 5-4. Time was running out when Coach Don Perry made a move that later resulted in a new league rule. He pulled goalie Lessard and replaced him with Doug Keens. The reason? To allow his star players to rest while Keens was warming up. Keens took his warm-up, play resumed, and on the next whistle, Lessard returned to the nets. The final minute of regulation is one for video collectors everywhere.
5-4, 1:14 left. Kings win the draw. It comes to the blue line. Taken away. There's a breakaway by Gretzky. Gretzky, the Kings catch up with him and take it away. Picked up by Hardy.
Hardy with it. Kings on the power play. 1 minute to go in the game. Here's Hardy. Passing right side off the boards. Oilers zone. Doug Bozak in deep. Bozak gives it to Taylor. Taylor's pass comes out to center ice. Lassard comes to the bench. The Kings now have a 2-man advantage, but their net is open. 47 seconds to go in the game. Hardy passing into the Oilers zone. Chased in deep by Lowe. Bozak checks Lowe. Into the boards. Taylor tries to dig it out. He does. He rolls it right side. Picked up by Dion. Dion, right wing corner, 34 seconds to go. Dion, Oilers zone. Dion with it. Bozak gets dumped in front. Dion with it. Right wing corner. 27 seconds to go. Dion still with it. Dion stick handles. Gives it behind the net to Simmer. He comes around in front. Dion to Simmer. 20 seconds to go in the game. Simmer behind the Oiler net. Front to Dion. He shoots. Save. Rebound. Loose puck. Gretzky with it. Can't hold it. Taken away by Fox. Fox in front to the blue line to Hardy. He shoots. Save. Rebound. Score!
Still don't believe it.
The Kings have tied the game with 5 seconds to go. I think it was Bozak. The rebound came up the middle. I think it was Steve Bozak that put it in. 5 seconds to go in the game, and it's tied at 5-5.
Well, I think there was a shot on goal, and the puck came to the right of the net, I believe, and Gretzky had it. So I come in, and there's maybe 10 seconds left, and he's trying to get it out, but I don't think he had real good control of it. So I just kind of poked it away, and I have the puck now, and really, I put it back to the point. What they say to do usually in the last seconds place, throw it at the front of the net, whatever happens, happens. Because you have a limited amount of time. I really wasn't sure how much time, but I got it back to the point. He was wide open. I think it was Mark Hardy. He takes the shot, and 1 rebound, it's in the net. We just had too many, we had the extra man out there. They couldn't cover us all. But as it turns out, no one could ever believe that was going to happen.
Well, it did happen, but the game wasn't over yet. The Oilers had a great chance to win in overtime when Mark Messier missed an open net. Just 2.5 minutes into overtime, the Kings had their chance. Face off to the left of Grand Pure. Doug Smith out. Darrell Evans and Bozak, an all-rookie front line. Wells and Chartraw back. Smith on the draw. Shot by Evans. He scores!
Oh! Look at him!
Side up under the crossbar, and the Kings have taken the lead in the series. They came from behind to win it in overtime, 6-5, and the Kings lead the series 2 games to 1. The miracle on Manchester was the high point in Kings history up to that time, but the team still hadn't won the series. In fact, they lost 2 nights later to force a 5th and deciding game in Edmonton. Well, this one was no contest. The Kings jumped out to a 2-0 lead and went on to win the game 7-4. Once again, Darrell Evans scored a couple of goals. In fact, he led the Kings with 5 goals and 8 assists in 10 playoff games. Like many playoff heroes, Evans quickly returned to obscurity after his heroics in 1982. The Kings struggled the next 2 years, missing the playoffs completely, despite the presence of some pretty good players. Dion was still scoring 50 goals a season and continued to move up the NHL's all-time scoring ladder. Jay Wells and J.P. Kelly were throwing their weight around the ice with fierce body checks. And captain Terry Ruskowski provided great leadership on and off the ice. But despite their individual stars, the Kings couldn't improve. They also tried to find a new star in goal. Rookie Gary Leskowski came out of nowhere as a free agent. He played more than half the games in 1983, then struggled the next year before disappearing completely. And still others tried to fill the nets.
Breakaway, Sundstrom in front, he shoots, saved by Matt Middleton, over to Milbury, shot, saved by Blake on the shot by Milbury. Bozar drops it to Gretzky, Gretzky shoots, saved by Barrett. Oh, what a great glove save.
The team kept losing. Something drastic had to be done. And then, in January 1984, the Kings fired both Don Perry, their beleaguered coach, and general manager George McGuire. Former Kings star Rogie Vachon, who had returned as a goaltending consultant the year before, was named the new general manager.
Nice pass ahead, Sykes to Gay, Gay across the line, to Sykes, to Gay, he scored!
In 1985, things finally started to look good for the Kings. Pat Quinn was brought in as the new coach. Under his direction, young players such as Phil Sykes and Gary Galley looked like stars of the future. There were also rookies in goal, Darren Elliott and Bob Janicek, who became just the fourth goalie in Kings history to win 20 games in a season. And in 1986, Rogie Vachon became the first player in Kings history to have his uniform number retired. With 171 victories, Rogie remains the winningest goaltender in Kings history. Regardless of their regular season success, the Kings always seemed to face the Oilers in the playoffs. 1985 saw Edmonton beat the Kings in 3 straight games, led, of course, by Wayne Gretzky. More new faces joined the Kings. Veteran Steve Shutt left Montreal and scored his final few NHL goals in a Los Angeles uniform. Bob Bourne, who had helped the Islanders to 4 straight Stanley Cups, brought experience and leadership to the Kings. And veteran Tiger Williams arrived in Los Angeles and showed fans why he is one of hockey's most unforgettable characters. Tiger knew how to score goals and how to celebrate, but he also was and remains the NHL's all-time leader in career penalty minutes. He would do whatever it took to win, and he would do whatever he could to gain advantage over an opponent.
There's a lot of players out there. The things I used to yell at them when I sat on the bench. I mean, now they have these hate laws. You know, I'd be behind bars if some of these censorships ever heard what I used to call about some guys, and not only about him, but I would find out what his wife's name was and his mom, and but it's all in the realm of the game, and that's what it's all about.
But the Kings' best hopes were with rookies, and they had 3 great ones in 1986. Jimmy Carson was selected 2nd overall in the NHL draft and made an immediate impact in the league. He scored 37 goals as an 18-year-old rookie and came back with 55 goals in his 2nd year. Steve Duchesne was overlooked in the NHL draft and signed with the Kings as a free agent. He went on to become the first defenseman in team history to score 20 goals in a season. He also provided some thrills with his fancy footwork. The biggest surprise in 1986 was the emergence of Luc Robitaille. Robitaille has become one of the highest-scoring left wingers in the NHL, averaging nearly 50 goals a season. No one imagined how good he would become. Robitaille wasn't selected until the 9th round of the 1984 draft.
You know, when the draft happened, I remember I was reading a paper in that morning, and I was classified, I think, like something like 200 or 190th. But I'm a positive. I always think positive, and I remember I was thinking maybe, you know, somebody will really believe in me and they'll pick me in the 3rd round or something. So I went to that draft, and I kept waiting and waiting. We got there, it was 1 o'clock, and when I heard my name, it was at 8 o'clock at night. I had spent 7 hours there, and boy, when I heard my name, it was like I jumped on the seat. I almost went way down the stairs. It was just, you know, it didn't matter the round. I just heard my name by an NHL team. It was just a great feeling.
Robitaille's teammates call him Lucky, and it's easy to see why. From the very start of his career, he's had a knack for scoring goals.
Dion to Robitaille.
In June 1987, Luc Robitaille became the first Kings player to win the Calder Trophy as the Rookie of the Year in the NHL. In March 1987, fans and players alike were shocked when veteran Marcel Dionne asked to be traded just before the trade deadline. The Kings complied, though it was a difficult action on both sides, especially tough when Dionne said goodbye before moving on to New York.
To all the fans, I would like to thank you very much. It's been 12 wonderful years. Thank you.
After 12 years in Los Angeles, Marcel Dionne was gone, but he would return. In the '87 playoffs, it was again the Kings against the Oilers, and again the Oilers were the winners. By this time, Dr. Jerry Buss had sold part of the team to Bruce McNall, who was a longtime Kings fan and season ticket holder. After watching Gretzky and the Oilers continually knock the Kings out of the playoffs, Buss and McNall began to think about ways of stopping the Oilers and ways of doing the unthinkable, obtaining Wayne Gretzky. In March 1988, Bruce McNall became the sole owner of the Kings, and shortly thereafter stepped up his conversations with Oilers owner Peter Pocklington. In 1988, the Kings continued having troubles in the playoffs, while Gretzky led the Oilers to another Stanley Cup. Well, during the summer of 1988, rumors began about a big Kings announcement, but McNall just kept talking about the new uniform colors that were being designed. Ever since they came into the league in 1967, the Kings colors had been what Jack Kent Cooke called Forum Blue and Gold. We knew them as Purple and Gold. At first, the home uniforms were purple, while the gold uniforms were worn on the road. In the early 70s, the league rules changed, and the Kings began wearing gold uniforms at home. Over the years, some modifications were made, but the basic colors were always the same. Fans were anxious to find out what the new uniforms would look like. And in early August, the Kings suddenly announced a major press conference. True, the new uniform colors were due to be revealed, but it seemed like there was something else in the wind. And sure enough, on Tuesday morning, August 9th, the announcement came out of Edmonton. The Oilers had traded Wayne Gretzky to the Kings. After the emotional press conference in Edmonton, Gretzky and McNall flew to Los Angeles, where more than 250 reporters were waiting.
That I can contribute and help the LA Kings and help make this team successful. And thank everyone for coming, and I hope we see you all at a lot of hockey games this season. Thank you very much.
It first hit me on that very first press conference when we came into Edmonton and there were a lot of people there. I thought that would be normal for Canada. But when I came to Los Angeles, and I don't know how many press were at that press conference, hundreds it seemed like to me, I just couldn't believe the reaction. And since that time, with the enthusiasm and all the press and so forth, it's just been unbelievable, far more than I ever expected.
2 months later, it was opening night at the Forum with all new uniforms, and the greatest player in hockey history wearing the black, silver, and white of the Kings.
The holder of 49 NHL records, number 99, Wayne Gretzky.
As you would expect, Gretzky rose to the occasion when it was time for the first goal for the new-look Kings.
Nichols, now to Taylor, to Gretzky, and he scores! Wayne Gretzky gets the first King goal of the new season.
Gretzky jumped into the NHL scoring lead with 4 points in his first game and stayed near the front of the pack all season long, winning his 9th Hart Trophy as the league's most valuable player.
I want to thank the fans of Los Angeles. I'd like to thank the training staff and the office staff. I want to thank Mr. Vachon and the coaching staff. Most importantly, I want to thank Mr. McNall. He's been great to me, and I wish I could have his name on here. Sorry. To my family, my daughter, she's watching in California tonight, so I know she's only 6 months old. But to my parents and, of course, my wife, thank you.
As soon as Gretzky joined the Kings, it became clear that the time would soon come when he would pass Gordie Howe and become the NHL's all-time leading scorer. Most experts thought it would happen early in his second season with the team. And sure enough, when the 1989-90 season began, Gretzky needed just 14 points to pass Gordie Howe. Based on Gretzky's career average, it looked like it would happen in the 6th game of the season. And guess where? In Edmonton, of course. And that's exactly how it happened. The Kings went to Edmonton on October 15th, with Gretzky 1 point behind Gordie Howe in the all-time scoring race. Early in the game, he picked up an assist to tie Howe, but the Oilers contained him after that. But with the Kings trailing 4-3 and under a minute to play, Gretzky prepared to take his place in history.
Kings are down 4-3, trying to tie this game up. Off the draw, here's Lowell with a minute to go in the game. Lowell cleared to the blue line, held in by Duchesne. Duchesne's pass in deep to Taylor, to Gretzky, he scores! He's done it! Wayne Gretzky, the great one, has become the greatest of them all. The leading scorer in the history of the National Hockey League.
Gretzky's dramatic goal tied the game, and in sudden death overtime, he put a cap on the night.
Gretzky waits there, around in front, he shoots, he scores! Wayne Gretzky wins the game for the Kings. Do you believe what you've just seen and heard?
With Gretzky on the team, the Kings have made playoff hockey the most exciting part of their season. The 1989-90 team finished in second place in the Smythe Division, but once again were face-to-face with the Oilers in the first round of the playoffs. Edmonton had beaten the Kings the previous 2 times they had met in the playoffs. Now it was the Kings with Gretzky against the Oilers, and all eyes in the league were on the 2 teams that seemed destined to meet. And it was a great playoff series.
Here's Krushelnyski into the Oilers zone, down the left side across the blue line. Checked along the boards, it comes back to Nichols, left point, he shoots, tipped and scored! Chris Kontos!
The '89 playoffs belonged to Chris Kontos, a former #1 draft choice of the Rangers who had bounced around the minors for 5 years. He came up at the end of the regular season and wound up scoring 9 goals in 11 playoff games. As so often happens, Kontos went back into obscurity after his heroics in the 1989 playoffs. The '89 playoffs also produced the second great comeback in Kings playoff history. In 1982, it was a comeback in the final period of 1 game. In '89, the Kings came back to win the series after trailing 3 games to 1. They started their comeback in Game 5.
Pass on the left side, Messier gets checked by Krushelnyski, Gretzky with it. Gretzky can't clear it up the middle. Steve Smith, his shot blocked. Kings with it. Here is Waters to Gretzky. Gretzky on a break, he shoots, and he scores!
Then in Game 6 in Edmonton, Mike Allison got the Kings going with one of the most heroic goals in playoff history.
Trying to get around Greg. Allison still reaching out, trying to kick it behind the net. Allison still with it. Wrap around, he scores! Oh, what an effort by Mike Allison to tie the game at 1.
You said it, Bob. A tremendous effort by Mike Allison. As he was fending off one of the Oilers with his left arm, he lost his left glove in doing so and just muscled himself out front. It was Randy Gregg that was trying to slow up Allison, He had him along the boards, but Allison wasn't going to quit. He comes out, finally gets his left hand on the stick for some leverage and balance, and puts it in between the pads of Grant Fuhr.
Allison's goal inspired the Kings to a 4-1 win to even up the series. Kings fans did their part when the Kings came on the ice for the 7th and deciding game. And as soon as the puck was dropped, Wayne Gretzky reminded everyone why he had been voted the league's most valuable player 8 times in 9 previous seasons.
Stops it there. Puck taken by Waters for the Kings. Up ahead now to Miller, now to center. Here's Gretzky with McSorley. Gretzky, left side. Gretzky shoots and he scores!
The Oilers wouldn't go down easily in the series. They challenged the Kings repeatedly, but Kelly Hrudey kept the Kings in the game. Finally, the Kings had a 5-3 lead, but in the last minute of the game, the Oilers had a power play and pulled their goalie for a 2-man advantage and one last attempt.
Minute 2 to go in the King penalty. The Oiler net is wide open, so in effect, they've got a 2-man advantage. Steve Kasper out, he'll take the draw against Messier. Kings with a 2-goal lead, and on the draw, Kings with it, not cleared. Now it is cleared. Here's Gretzky with an empty net. Gretzky, he shoots, he scores!
The 7-game series was one of the most dramatic in playoff history. The Kings knocked off the defending Stanley Cup champions. 1 year later, the Kings again found themselves matched against the defending Stanley Cup champs, this time the Calgary Flames. The Flames were favored to win, but the Kings surprised the champs with a 5-3 win in Game 1 at Calgary. Game 3 was a classic playoff game, low scoring with few opportunities at either end. Regulation ended with the score tied at 1. Midway through the first overtime period, the Flames were given a power play, a rare occurrence in sudden death. But the ending was even more unusual.
Right side, here's Granato with a chance to win it. He shoots, he scores!
It was a completely different story the next game. Hat tricks by Thomas Sandstrom, Tony Granato, and Dave Taylor set an NHL playoff record during a 12-4 win over the Flames. The ending of the 1990 playoffs against Calgary was unforgettable. Game 6 was the longest overtime the Kings had ever played, their first playoff game ever to go into double overtime. Early in the second extra period came one of those goals that seemed to be created for instant replay.
By Burnham, and the puck comes to the right point. Duchesne shoots, save, rebound, shot, score! Kings win! Mike Krushelnyski wins the game!
For 2 straight years, the Kings had knocked off the defending Stanley Cup champions. In 1990-91, they built on their playoff success and put together their best regular season ever. Coach Tom Webster led the team to the most wins in team history and their first ever division championship, the championship that had eluded the team since 1968. There were now new stars on the team, veterans to provide leadership, and youngsters to provide excitement. But the Kings have always remembered their past. And in 1990, they took time to honor former King Marcel Dionne, who became just the 2nd player in team history to have his uniform number retired. In a dinner the night before the ceremony, many former teammates gathered to tell some of their favorite stories about Marcel.
Going into the first game, it was like Luke and Jimmy. I'm standing there and I say, Mars, how do you want me to play? I'm the career minor leaguer. He's a superstar. We got a little college kid on the other side. He tells me, don't touch the puck.
I just want to share one story. I'm not sure how funny it is, but one night we were doing very well, and our line was on a roll. I think we were playing very well. We were on the road. We went into Pittsburgh, and we were getting ready for a game. And the afternoon of the game, Marcel got a phone call in his room, and the caller said, Marcel, if you play tonight, I'm going to kill you. And this is very serious. It was a death threat, and Marcel obviously was very nervous, and he called the NHL security, and a lot of people were wondering what to do, whether Marcel should play, whether he shouldn't play, and how we should handle this. And so they added extra security there. They thought if they're going to make an attempt, it might be a sniper or something like that. So they had some extra people at the rink when Marcel was going onto the ice. He had an escort and stuff like this, and he went out to play the game. I think they left the decision up to Marcel whether he wanted to play or not, and he said, certainly I'll play. And you know, he's a great guy for the team, and you know, certainly wanted to win. So he went out there, and besides playing, I think that night he scored 2 goals, Marcel. But each time he scored, he put his arms up, and the other 5 players went right to the bench.
In 1990-91, the Kings had their most successful postseason ever, playing a team record 12 games, including 6 that went into overtime and 2 that went into double overtime. And there's no other thrill that can match a game winner in sudden death.
Gretzky in center. Here's Gretzky into the Oilers zone. Gretzky drops it. Here's Robitaille. Shoots. Score! Kings win! 9 minutes to go in sudden death. On the right side here, Sandstrom, Vancouver zone. He shoots, save. Rebound, Granado shoots, save. Gretzky shoots. He scores! Kings win!
For 20 years, hockey in Los Angeles seemed like a well-kept secret, shared by a few thousand loyal fans. But with Wayne Gretzky leading the way, it's been a new era. Hockey is now the most talked about sport in town, and the Kings have become the most talked about team in the entire National Hockey League. Kings colors have become the hottest sellers among NHL collectors. And street hockey? Well, it used to be a rare sight in town. But now you see kids all over the city playing in driveways and schoolyards. True, it may have taken 20 years to be noticed, but hockey has definitely become a big part of life in Southern California today. What will it take to push it over the top? Well, how about a Stanley Cup championship for Los Angeles?
That would be, to me, that would be my greatest thrill in my life, is to help this team win a Stanley Cup. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take everyone in the organization to be part of it. But that would be the greatest moment of my life, because everyone from the coaching staff, to the trainers, to Rogie Vachon, to Mr. McNall, have been just so first class that I would honestly give anything to help win a Stanley Cup for everyone here.
So now that we've come 24 years in our story of hockey in Los Angeles, let's look forward to our next celebration, the Stanley Cup. But as we look forward, let's also remember all the players who have entertained us in the past. And thanks to old programs, scrapbooks, and videotapes, we'll always remember.
If your life was on videotape, wouldn't everything be alright? When your head hurts the morning after, then you could roll it back to late last night. You could replay all the good parts and cut out what you don't like. Oh, wouldn't you be in good shape if your life was on videotape? If everybody had ESP, everything would be okay. We could see trouble coming, and we could step out of the way. When that grim reaper comes to call, then we could arrange to be out of town. It would be the great escape, and you could put it on videotape. I don't have a video recorder, I don't have a crystal ball. When I'm not with my baby, oh, then I don't have very much at all. I can't predict the future, and babe, I sure can't change the past, but I know it will all make sense if you love me in the present tense. If your life was on videotape, wouldn't everything be alright? When your head hurts the morning after, you could always roll it back to late last night. You could replay all the good parts and cut out what you don't like. Oh, wouldn't you be in good shape if your life was on videotape? Oh, wouldn't you be in good shape if your life was on videotape?
It's wild out there. You need a jungle fighter on your side. That's why more and more people choose Toyo tires, the jungle fighters. Toyo tires. Driven